A music box left behind Sienna Vale pressed her forehead against the cool glass of the 38th floor window, watching snowflakes dance through the amber glow of streetlights below. Her reflection stared back at her, tired green eyes rimmed with exhaustion, auburn hair escaping from a messy bun. The cleaning cart beside her rattled as another gust of wind shook the building. Midnight in Sterling Heights, and she was only halfway through her shift at Horizon Tech. Her fingers absently touched the small locket around her neck, a habit whenever she thought of Ruby. Her 5-year-old daughter was probably curled up at Mrs. Patterson's apartment right now, hopefully asleep, hopefully not crying for the music box. That delicate porcelain treasure with its tiny ballerina that spun to Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake. Ruby's father had given it to her before he disappeared from their lives 2 years ago. It was the only thing Ruby had left of him. Sienna moved through the executive suite with practiced efficiency. Her worn sneakers silent on the plush carpet, she dusted the marble reception desk, emptied trash bins, wiped down conference tables where decisions worth millions were made daily. Her own bank account held $63. Rent was due in 5 days. The corner office loomed ahead, its door bearing a silver nameplate. Damian Cross, Chief Executive Officer. Sienna had never met him. Few people had. He arrived before dawn, left after midnight, rarely attended company gatherings. The other cleaners whispered about him. Cold as winter steel. Fired his assistant for bringing regular coffee instead of espresso. Once made a board member cry during a presentation. Sienna pushed the door open carefully. The office was a study in minimalist elegance. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. A sleek black desk held only a laptop, a single pen, and a framed photograph turned face down. Bookshelves lined one wall, filled with technical journals and business publications. No personal touches, no warmth. Just success, polished and perfect and lonely. She worked quickly, dusting around the laptop, straightening the already straight chair. Her canvas bag sat by the door, bulging with her sketchbook, rubies, spare clothes, snacks, and the music box. At least it should have contained the music box. Sienna had tucked it in that morning, promising Ruby she would keep it safe, that they would listen to it together when she got home. The vacuum hummed to life, drowning out the building's silence. Sienna moved in systematic rows, her mind wandering to the watercolor set she had seen at the art supply store. $29. She could almost afford it if she skipped groceries for a few days. Ruby could eat at Mrs. Patterson's, but no, that was ridiculous. Food came first. Art was a luxury for people who did not count pennies. She did not notice when the music box slipped from her bag. Did not see it tumble onto the thick carpet beside a leather armchair. Did not hear the faint musical tinkle as it landed. The mechanism inside giving one ghostly note before falling silent. The discovery at Don Damian Cross arrived at his office at 5 in the morning, as he did every day. Sleep was elusive lately, had been for 3 years now. Ever since the accident that took everything, he shrugged off his coat, loosened his tie, and moved to start the coffee maker he kept on a side table. Something caught his eye. A glint of gold and ivory on the floor. He bent down, his tall frame folding as he picked up the object. A music box. Small, delicate, painted with tiny flowers and vines. The porcelain was chipped in one corner, the paint worn from countless small hands. He turned it over in his palm, feeling the weight of it. This was not a decoration. This was loved. Without thinking, he wound the key on the bottom. The mechanism clicked to life, and suddenly his office was filled with music. Swan Lake. The melody pierced through him like a blade, sharp and sweet and devastating. He stood frozen, the music box spinning its tiny ballerina in his hand, and for a moment he was somewhere else. A different office, a different life. A small girl with dark curls spinning in circles, her laughter bright as bells. Her mother smiling from the doorway, gone. Both of them. 3 years, 4 months, 6 days ago. Damian closed his eyes, forcing the memory back into its locked box. He should toss this thing in lost and found. Call maintenance. It was not his problem, but his fingers would not release it. Something about the worn paint, the chipped corner, the way the music wobbled slightly off key. Someone needed this back. Someone loved this. He checked the overnight cleaning log on his computer. Only one person had been assigned to his floor. Sienna Vale. He pulled up her employee file. Age 28. Single parent. Started 6 months ago. Performance reviews were exemplary. Always on time, thorough, respectful. The music box sat on his desk, the ballerina still now frozen mid-spin. Damien stared at it, then at the photograph he kept face down. Slowly, he reached out and turned it upright. A woman and a little girl smiled back at him from a sunny park, their faces full of a joy that felt like another lifetime. He wrote a note on his personal letterhead, something he never did. Found in my office. Please call to retrieve. He added his private number, another thing he never did. Then he placed the music box carefully in his desk drawer and locked it, safe, protected. A. Mother's panicked Sienna stumbled through her apartment door at 6:30 in the morning, her body aching from the double shift. The grocery store wanted her at 8. 2 hours to sleep, shower, and get Ruby from Mrs. Patterson's. She dropped her bag on the sagging couch and reached inside for the music box. Ready to place it on Ruby's pillow as a surprise, her fingers met sketchbook, spare clothes, empty juice boxes. No music box, panic hit her like ice water. She dumped the bag out, contents scattering across the worn carpet. Nothing. She checked pockets, checked between pages of her sketchbook, checked everywhere. Gone. Ruby would be heartbroken. That music box was her connection to a father who had vanished. Her comfort on scared nights, her treasure. Sienna sank onto the couch, her hands shaking. She could not afford to replace it. Vintage music boxes cost hundreds. She barely had enough for rent. Where had she lost it? She traced her steps mentally. The break room, the hallways, the offices. Which offices? She had cleaned 12 last night. Her heart sank further. One of them had been the CEO's office. Damien Cross, the man who supposedly had ice in his veins and no patience for mistakes. If she had left Ruby's music box in his office, she was finished. He would report her for bringing personal items into executive spaces. She would be fired. No job meant no apartment, no food, no way to care for Ruby, but she had to try. For Ruby's sake, she had to swallow her fear and ask. Sienna pulled out her phone, hands still trembling, and dialed the office main line. The receptionist would not arrive for hours. She tried the security desk. A gruff voice answered. This is Sienna Vale. I'm on the night cleaning crew. I think I left something on the executive floor last night. Is there any way to check lost and found? A pause. Keyboard clicking. What kind of item? A music box. Small, porcelain, with a ballerina. Another pause, longer this time. Hold, please. Silence stretched. Sienna counted her heartbeats, each one louder than the last. Then the voice returned. Mr. Cross left a note. Says to call this number. He recited digits. Sienna wrote them down with shaking fingers. Mr. Cross, the CEO himself, had found it. She was definitely getting fired, but she had to get that music box back. Ruby needed it more than Sienna needed this job. She waited until 7, until she hoped he might be in his office. Then dialed with trembling fingers. The phone rang once, twice, then a voice. Deep and measured. This is Damien Cross. Sienna's throat went dry. Mr. Cross, this is Sienna Vale. I'm one of the night cleaners. I believe you found my daughter's music box. A pause. She could hear him breathing. Could almost feel him weighing his words. The one with the ballerina. Yes. You can pick it up this evening if you are working tonight. Relief flooded through her so powerfully she felt dizzy. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry it was left there. It won't happen again. It's fine. His voice was careful, neutral. 7 o'clock. My office. He hung up before she could respond. Sienna sat holding the phone, her mind racing. He had not sounded angry. Just careful. Guarded. Maybe the rumors were wrong. Maybe he was not the monster everyone claimed. She had 12 hours until she faced him. 12 hours to prepare for what might be her last day at Horizon Tech. The evening return, the elevator doors opened onto the 38th floor with a soft chime that echoed through the empty corridor. Sienna stepped out, her heart hammering against her ribs. She had left Ruby with Mrs. Patterson again, promising to be home with the music box before bedtime. The older woman's patience was wearing thin. Her sighs growing heavier each time, Sienna knocked on her door. The executive suite stretched before her like a cathedral, all glass and steel in expensive silence. Her reflection multiplied in the windows, a tired woman in a faded jacket and jeans that had seen too many washes. She had debated wearing something nicer, then remembered her closet contained nothing nice. This was who she was. No point pretending otherwise. Damien Cross's office door stood open, warm light spilling into the hallway. Sienna paused at the threshold, her hand hovering near the frame. Through the doorway she could see him standing by the windows, his back to her. He had removed his suit jacket. His white dress shirt was rolled to the elbows, revealing forearms marked with what looked like old scars. His dark hair was disheveled, as though he had been running his hands through it. "Mr. Cross?" Her voice came out smaller than she intended. He turned, and Sienna got her first real look at the man behind the rumors. He was younger than she expected, perhaps 35, with sharp features softened by exhaustion. His eyes were gray, the color of winter storms, and held a depth of sadness that struck her unexpectedly. This was not the face of a heartless corporate titan. This was the face of someone carrying impossible weight. His veil. He moved to his desk, unlocked a drawer, and withdrew the music box. "I believe this is yours." Sienna crossed the room, each step feeling too loud on the quiet carpet. She reached for the music box, and their fingers brushed as he handed it over. A spark of connection, brief but electric. She clutched the porcelain treasure to her chest, feeling its familiar weight settle something inside her. "I cannot thank you enough." My daughter Ruby, she would have been devastated. It was her father's gift before he left. Something flickered in Damien's expression. Pain, recognition, understanding. "I know what it means to lose something irreplaceable." The words hung between them, heavy with unspoken story. Sienna found herself studying him more closely, the deep circles under his eyes, the way his shoulders carried tension like armor. The photograph on his desk, now face up, showing a beautiful woman and a little girl. "Your family?" she asked softly, nodding toward the picture. His jaw tightened. They were. 3 years ago, car accident. Drunk driver ran a red light. The air left Sienna's lungs. "I'm so sorry. Everyone is sorry." His voice was flat, but she heard the ocean of grief beneath it. Sorry doesn't bring them back. Sorry doesn't fill the silence in a house that used to be full of laughter. Sienna understood that kind of emptiness. Different circumstances, same hollow ache. Ruby's father left when she was 3. Just walked out one day and never came back. No explanation, no goodbye. Just gone. Damien's eyes met hers, and in that moment, something shifted. Two strangers recognizing each other's scars. "How do you do it?" he asked. "Raise a child alone?" "1 day at a time. Sometimes 1 hour at a time." Sienna set the music box carefully on the edge of his desk. "You learn to be strong because you don't have another choice. Ruby needs me, so I show up. Even on days when showing up feels impossible. I don't have anyone who needs me anymore." The admission seemed to escape him without permission. "The company runs itself. I just sign papers and attend meetings. I could disappear tomorrow and no one would truly notice." "That's not true." Sienna surprised herself with her certainty. "I noticed. You've saved my daughter's most precious possession. You could have thrown it away or left it in lost and found. Instead, you kept it safe. That matters." An unexpected offer. Damien studied her for a long moment, his storm gray eyes searching her face. "What did you do before cleaning offices?" The question caught her off guard. "I painted. Watercolors mostly. Sold a few pieces at local galleries. Nothing spectacular, but it made me happy." "Why did you stop?" "Ruby needed food more than I needed art supplies." Sienna shrugged, trying to make it sound simple when it felt like losing a limb. Priorities change when you become a parent. Damien moved to the bookshelf, pulled out a leather folder, and returned to hand it to her. Open it. Inside were architectural sketches. Beautiful, detailed drawings of buildings that seemed to breathe on the page. Sienna's artist eye immediately recognized the talent. The way light and shadow played across the lines, the emotional weight in each stroke.
Yes.
These are incredible. Who did them? I did. Before I became CEO, I wanted to be an architect. Design spaces where people could live and love and create memories. His voice carried the weight of abandoned dreams. Then I inherited the company when my father died. Had to be responsible. Had to honor his legacy. Architecture became a hobby I never had time for. Sienna looked at the sketches, then at him, seeing the parallel paths of their lives. Dreams sacrificed to necessity. Art buried beneath survival. We're both ghosts, she said quietly. Walking through lives that don't quite fit anymore. Yes. The word was barely a whisper. Silence settled, not uncomfortable but full. The music box sat between them like a bridge. Finally, Damien spoke again, his tone shifting to something more businesslike, as if he needed the distance. I have a proposal. Horizon Tech is remodeling the lobby. We need artwork. Local pieces to make the space feel more welcoming. I would like to commission you. Sienna's heart leaped, then crashed. Mr. Cross, I appreciate the gesture, but I cannot accept charity. It's not charity. It's business. His expression was serious, professional. I have seen your work. You have. He gestured to her canvas bag, where her sketchbook peeked out. Last week when you were cleaning, you left your bag open. I saw your drawings. Cityscapes, portraits, abstracts. You have genuine talent, Ms. Vale. Talent the company would be foolish not to utilize. Sienna's hand went to her bag protectively. You looked through my private sketches? I saw one page. It was enough. He pulled out his phone, tapped the screen, and showed her an image. Her own work, a watercolor skyline she had painted years ago, now displayed on an art gallery website. I had my assistant research you. Sienna Vale. Graduated top of your class from Sterling Heights Art Institute. Had 2 gallery showings before you disappeared from the art world 5 years ago? Heat rushed to her face. Embarrassment, exposure, something deeper. That was a different life. I'm not that person anymore, aren't you? Or have you just convinced yourself you can't be? The question hit like a dart to the heart. Sienna looked away, blinking against sudden tears. I have responsibilities. A daughter who needs stability, not a mother chasing impossible dreams. What if it's not impossible? Damien leaned forward, intensity crackling around him. 5 paintings. 50 by 70 centimeters each. Theme of your choice. I'll pay $15,000. Half up front, half on delivery. The number stole her breath. $15,000. That was rent for a year. Food, clothes for Ruby, maybe even a real bed instead of the mattress on the floor. Art supplies. Time. Why are you doing this? Suspicion crept into her voice. You don't know me. This is too much. Because I see someone drowning and I have a life preserver. His voice was rough, honest. Because watching talent die is a tragedy I can prevent. Because your daughter deserves a mother who remembers how to dream. Ruby's laughter before Sienna could respond. Before she could accept or refuse or process the offer, her phone buzzed. Mrs. Patterson's number. She answered with apology already forming on her lips. Sienna dear, I'm so sorry, but I need to go to the hospital. My sister fell. I have to leave now. It's panic spiked. Of course, I understand. I'll be right there. She hung up, her mind racing through impossible logistics. No other babysitter. No family in the city. She would have to bring Ruby here, to this office, to this moment where her entire future hung in balance. Problem? Damien asked. My sitter has an emergency. I need to pick up Ruby, but I'm supposed to work my shift tonight. Bring her here. Sienna blinked. What? Bring your daughter here. You can work. She can stay in my office. I'll be here anyway, Mr. Cross. I can't ask you to babysit. You're not asking. I'm offering. Something in his expression softened. I miss the sound of a child's voice. The building is too quiet. 20 minutes later, Sienna returned with Ruby in tow. Her daughter clutched the music box like a treasure, her dark curls bouncing as she skipped down the hallway. When she saw Damien, she tilted her head with innocent curiosity. Are you the prince who saved my music box? Damien knelt to her level, and Sienna watched something magical happen. The hard lines of his face melted. The sadness in his eyes receded. He smiled, genuinely smiled, and it transformed him. I found it, yes. It's very beautiful. Ruby wound the key, and Swan Lake filled the office. The tiny ballerina spun, and Ruby spun with her, her small body twirling in circles. Her laughter rang out, pure and bright and healing. Damien watched her with an expression of such longing and pain, and joy that Sienna's throat tightened. He was remembering his daughter. Seeing her in Ruby's movements, hearing her in Ruby's laughter, the grief was written plainly on his face, but so was something else. Hope, connection. Life returning to frozen places. Ruby danced to the chair, climbed up, and peered at the architectural sketches still spread on the desk. Pretty pictures. Did you make them? I did. My mama makes pretty pictures too. She's the best artist in the whole world. Ow. Damien glanced at Sienna, one eyebrow raised in question. Sienna felt her cheeks warm. She's biased. She's right. He stood, moved to his desk, and pulled out a blank piece of paper and a cup of expensive pens. Ruby, would you like to draw with me while your mother works? Ruby's eyes went wide with delight. Yes, please. Sienna cleaned that night with Ruby's laughter floating through the executive suite like music. She would pause sometimes, lean on her mop, and watch through the glass wall as Damien and Ruby bent over papers, drawing together. He was patient, encouraging, showing her how to shade and blend. Ruby chattered constantly, telling him about her favorite color, her stuffed elephant, the song she learned at daycare, and Damien listened. Really listened, the way adults rarely do with children. His responses were thoughtful, engaged. He was not humoring her. He was connecting with her. When Sienna finished her shift, she found them asleep. Damien, in his chair, Ruby curled in his lap, the music box silent on the desk beside them. Both wore matching expressions of peace. Sienna stood in the doorway, her heart doing strange things in her chest. This cold CEO, this broken man, cradling her daughter like she was precious, protecting her the way he could not protect his own child. She approached quietly and gently touched his shoulder. Mr. Cross, he woke instantly, careful not to disturb Ruby. I'm sorry. We were drawing and she got tired. Thank you. Sienna's voice was thick with emotion. For everything. Transferred Ruby to her arms, the little girl mumbling in her sleep. As Sienna adjusted her grip, Damien spoke softly. The commission stands. Think about it. She nodded, unable to form words, and carried Ruby toward the elevator. At the threshold, she turned back. Damien stood by his desk, the drawings scattered around him, looking more alone than ever. Mr. Cross, would you like to see them? The paintings? When I make them? His expression shifted, surprise, and something warmer breaking through. I would. Very much. Then I accept. Your commission? I accept, a real smile the second she had seen from him. Good, I'll have the contract drawn up tomorrow. The first brushstroke check arrived 3 days later. $7,500, half the commission, just as promised. Sienna stared at the numbers until they blurred, unable to believe they were real. She paid rent, bought groceries without counting every penny, purchased the watercolor set from the art supply store, the good one with 48 colors, and then she stood in her tiny apartment, facing a blank canvas, and froze. 5 years since she had painted anything real. 5 years of sketching on napkins and margins, of burying her dreams under exhaustion and fear. Now, with everything she needed spread before her, terror gripped her throat. What if she had forgotten how? What if the magic was gone? What if she took Damien's money and produced garbage? Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number that she somehow knew was him. Painter's block is normal. Start with something small. Something true. She smiled despite her fear. How did he know? She texted back, how did you get my number? Employee records. Technically unethical. Worth it if it helps. Sienna laughed, the sound surprising her. When had she last laughed? She looked around her apartment, really looked. The worn couch where Ruby read her picture books, the window where morning light painted gold across the floor, the music box on the shelf, its ballerina caught mid-spin. Something small, something true. She picked up her brush. Building bridges, the paintings emerged slowly, one careful layer at a time. Sienna worked during Ruby's daycare hours. Then during her afternoon shift at the grocery store, she had managed to reduce. The cleaning job continued at night, but now, when she arrived at Horizon Tech, Damien was often there. They fell into a routine neither discussed but both needed. She would clean, he would work, and they would talk. Small conversations at first. The weather, Ruby's latest adorable mispronunciation, the stress of quarterly reports, then deeper things. Why did you really stay with the company? Sienna asked one night, 2 weeks into the commission. She was wiping down the conference table while he reviewed contracts at his desk. After your wife and daughter died, you could have walked away. Damien was quiet for so long she thought he would not answer. Then, grief is easier when you're busy. If I stopped moving, I would have to feel it all. The company gave me a reason to get out of bed. A way to survive without actually living. And now... He looked up, his gray eyes finding hers across the room. Now I'm remembering what living feels like. It's terrifying. Sienna understood. She had built her own walls, convinced herself that survival was enough, that dreams were luxuries she could not afford. But painting again, feeling colors flow from her brush. Watching images emerge from blank canvas, she was remembering too. Ruby became their bridge. Damien started keeping art supplies in his office. When Sienna brought her daughter to work, Ruby would draw while Sienna cleaned. Damien would join her, the two of them creating elaborate pictures of dragons and castles and adventures. You're good with her, Sienna observed one evening. Watching Damien help Ruby draw a unicorn, she reminds me of Lily, my daughter. His voice caught on the name. Same wild imagination. Same fearless joy. Being with Ruby, it hurts and heals at the same time. Ruby looked up from her drawing. Do you miss your little girl? Adults would have changed the subject, deflected, protected him from the question. But Ruby's innocence demanded honesty. Every day, Damien said simply. Every single day? It's okay to be sad, Ruby said with the wisdom of children. Mama says feelings are like weather. Sometimes sunny, sometimes rainy. Both are okay. Damien's eyes filled with tears he did not try to hide. Your mama is very smart. The unveiling 6 weeks after accepting the commission, Sienna completed the final painting. 5 pieces, each telling part of a story she had not realized she was writing until they were finished. The first, a music box glowing in darkness, its ballerina frozen mid-dance, surrounded by shadows that suggested both loss and hope. The second, empty office buildings at night, windows lit like stars, each light representing someone working, dreaming, surviving. The third, small hands holding crayons, creating worlds on paper, innocence and imagination intertwined. The fourth, a man's scarred hands, strong and gentle, catching falling light. The fifth, dawn breaking over a city, darkness giving way to gold. The promise of new beginnings. She called Damien from her apartment, her voice shaking. They're finished. The paintings. Would you like to see them? Yes, no hesitation. I'll send a car. I can take the bus. Sienna. Let me send the car. The driver arrived 30 minutes later, a sleek vehicle that made her neighbors stare. Sienna loaded the carefully wrapped paintings, her heart racing with anticipation and terror. What if he hated them? What if they were not good enough? What if she had failed? Damien met her in the lobby, not his office. He had closed off a conference room, set up proper lighting. His hair was messy, his tie loosened, nervous energy radiating from him. Scared, Sienna admitted as she unwrapped the first painting. Me too. She revealed them one by one, setting each on an easel she had not known he had prepared. Damien circled the room slowly, studying each piece with an intensity that made her skin tingle. He paused longest at the fourth painting, the scarred hands catching light. "These are mine," he said quietly. "Yes, you see me." It was not a question. "Really see me? Yes?" He turned to her, and the distance between them felt charged, electric, dangerous. "They're not just good, Sienna. They're extraordinary. You've captured something true. Something that matters." Relief and pride swelled in her chest. "Really? Really?" He moved closer, and she could see the emotion swimming in his gray eyes. "But there's a problem." Her stomach dropped. "What?" "I don't want to hang them in the lobby. I want them in my office. I want to see them every day. These specific pieces, this specific story." Paused, choosing words carefully. "Because they're our story, aren't they? Yours and mine and Ruby's. Loss and survival, and the terrifying possibility of healing." Sienna's breath caught. Damien, his name spoken for the first time without the formal distance of Mr. "I'm broken," he continued, his voice raw. "I have nightmares. Some days I can barely function. I'm not whole, and I might never be whole again. But when I'm with you, when I'm with Ruby, I remember what hope feels like. I remember that broken things can still be beautiful." Tears spilled down Sienna's cheeks. "I'm broken too. I'm terrified of trusting anyone. I have nothing to offer except a struggling artist with a daughter and more baggage than anyone should carry. You offer everything that matters." Damien reached out, his scarred hands cupping her face with infinite gentleness. "You offer truth, courage, the reminder that we're more than our scars." "What are we doing?" Sienna whispered. "I don't know, but I want to find out. If you're willing to take the risk." She thought of Ruby, who needed stability, of her own fears, the walls she had built so carefully, of all the ways this could end in heartbreak. Then she thought of the music box, of how one small object had led to this moment, of the paintings that had poured from her soul, of Damien's smile when Ruby danced, of feeling alive again after years of merely surviving. "I'm terrified," she admitted. "So am I, but I want to try." He kissed her then, soft and careful, a question and an answer. Sienna kissed him back, tasting salt from tears, hers or his she could not tell. When they broke apart, both were crying and smiling. 6 months later, Ruby's laughter echoed through Damien's house, chasing away ghosts that had haunted the halls too long. She raced through rooms that had been silent, bringing light to corners that had grown cold. The music box sat on the mantel now, between photographs. Old ones of Lily and her mother, new ones of Ruby and Sienna. Sienna's paintings hung throughout the house, her art filling spaces with color and life. She had quit the cleaning job, quit the grocery store. Now she painted full-time, with a studio in what had been Damien's unused library. Commissions came steadily. Galleries were interested again. Damien still ran Horizon Tech, but differently now. He left at reasonable hours. He smiled in meetings. He had started sketching again. Architectural drawings that might someday become real buildings. They were not fixed. Healing was not linear. Damien still had nights where grief crashed over him like waves. Sienna still panicked about money, despite having enough. Both carried scars that would never fully fade, but they carried them together. On a Sunday morning, Sienna found Damien in the garden with Ruby. They were planting flowers. Dirt under their nails, sunshine in their hair. Ruby was chattering about the colors she wanted, how they would paint the garden into a rainbow. Damien looked up, saw Sienna watching, and smiled. That real smile she had first glimpsed months ago. The one that transformed him from broken man to someone learning to live again. "Mama," Ruby called. "Come help. We're making beauty." Sienna joined them, kneeling in the dirt, her hands in the soil beside Damien's scarred ones. Ruby pressed seeds into the earth with serious concentration, already planning the painting she would make when the flowers bloomed. "Thank you," Damien said quietly, for Sienna's ears alone. "For what? For rolling that music box into my office? For painting? For being brave enough to let me be broken while I learned to heal? For giving me a reason to remember that life can be beautiful again?" Sienna leaned against him, feeling the solid warmth of his shoulder, watching Ruby work with focused determination. "Thank you for finding it. For seeing me. For showing me that dreams don't have to die just because life gets hard." The music box's melody drifted through the open window. Swan Lake playing on an endless loop because Ruby had wound it too tight. But instead of annoying, it was perfect. A reminder that sometimes the broken things, the lost things, the things that roll into unexpected places, lead us exactly where we need to be. Ruby finished planting her seeds and sat back on her heels, surveying her work with satisfaction. "There. Now we wait for magic." "That's how all good things grow," Damien said, ruffling her curls. "With patience and care and a little bit of magic." He caught Sienna's eye, and in his gaze she saw everything. The past that had broken them both, the present they were building together, the future that was uncertain, but no longer frightening because they would face it as a family. Not perfect, not unmarked by sorrow, but real, honest, healing. The afternoon sun painted everything gold. Ruby's laughter rang clear as bells. The music box played its eternal song. And in the garden of a house that had learned to breathe again, 3 people who had been lost found something more precious than they had ever imagined. They found home.